let's go ahead and get started. Welcome in. Thank you guys for coming out tonight. It's going to be fun. There are so many things that like to grow in spring, and hopefully our knowledge is one of them. So, my name is Dr. Taylor Goodwin. I am a naturopathic doctor. I specialized in alternative medicine. My favorite part of that was herbs. Since I was a kid, my mom was calling me out of neighbors' lawns and saying, "Stop picking the neighbors' weeds." It's like, it's a service, you know. And now I've matured, and my wife calls me out of neighbors' lawns, so it's much better. But as a naturopathic doctor, I chose that for various reasons, but I already knew plants had a lot of things that they're supposed to be good for. I'll be honest, I didn't really believe it. It was mostly like, that sounds so cool for the books, for novels, you know, for fantasy. But as I went through medical school, I was reading into studies and research, and I actually started using some of them. And they did things that other prescription medications, which are good in certain times and places, but they were doing some things that my patients weren't getting any other way. And so I started going more and more into the specialization of all those things. And after I finished out all of my training, and I'm on my own, and I'm a doctor, and it's been several years now, I left Arizona and came out over here, and it was like, oh my gosh, everything grows wild that I was prescribing. It's amazing what just grows naturally in the Ozarks. So we're going to cover several plants that do grow locally, including one that I didn't mean to show you, but I picked up one and I was like, oh, bonus plant. So you guys are going to get one no one else is going to get. So before we dive into that, though, I'm going to tell you a really quick story. So back in, the 1920s, there was a family during the Great Depression who was having a really rough time, and the father had to leave home to go find some work, and he wasn't able to find it quickly enough, and so those back at home ran out of food. And they were down to, if I recall correctly, one small handful of black beans, or pinto beans maybe it was, and one egg. And that was it. And so the 14-year-old son, family of 4, went out, and he's like, all right, I have a weird hobby, and I'm finally going to put it to use. And he went out, and he started harvesting prickly pear, wild greens, and I think he might have gotten some wild Jerusalem artichoke or something along those lines. And he came back, and he fed his family for a whole month. Now, before this time, you could always find this guy in the libraries, as well as going and asking anyone who's gardening. It's like, I don't know what property lines are. He goes around back, what are you doing? Who knows more than you do? And he would find the gurus who knew all about the plants, and he would just ask them questions till they threw him out of their house. So this guy was named Ewell Gibbons, if you're familiar with him. Have you ever eaten a pine tree? So I'm going to tell you a second story. In roughly the 1980s, I've tried to refine this story. And I haven't been able to give you the exact year, but it's happened in different ways in different places enough that it doesn't really matter what the details are. This is a true story, whether the exact details shift around or not. In the 1980s, there was a park ranger, and he'd had his job for a decent amount of time. He felt very comfortable walking through the trees, very comfortable in nature. That was his job. That was his, I assume, his pleasure as well. And he went to, as he was going through the woods, making sure everything was in order and that no one was doing things they weren't supposed to, he pulled out his lunch and he sat down, probably on a log. And he noticed that his sandwich was very boring. Bread, meat, bread, that's it. It's like, I'm going to spice this up a bit. He reached over and he grabbed a leaf, he slapped it on a sandwich, and then he took a bite. And he probably ate the whole sandwich without noticing anything, but he didn't have much longer than that. Unfortunately, he didn't look at the leaf that he grabbed. He felt very confident because he was comfortable, not because he was competent or practiced. Unfortunately, the leaf that he grabbed looked a lot like this. Looks very appetizing, if you think about beauty as appetizing. Very fern-like. We're going to go into this plant, but I guess I'll spoil it for you. Anyone want to take a guess? Do we know what this is?
It looks like wild carrot.
It does look like wild carrot. Very close, but it's not. We have wild carrot here, right next to it. I never show one of these plants without the other, because these are two of the most commonly confused plants. It's possible he thought he was grabbing wild carrot, in which case He just didn't look closely enough. Poison hemlock. And unfortunately, that was his last sandwich. He didn't make it. I have some other stories about poison hemlock, but I tell you these two stories for a few different reasons. Can anyone tell me what is the difference between the first story and the second story? Research. The boy, Yule Gibbons, 14 years old, he had done a lot of research. He knew what he was looking for, and he knew why he was looking for it. He had confidence because of competence, not just because of being comfortable. Anything else? All right, that was the main one I was looking for, so awesome. The other thing I would like to point out is he was a 14-year-old boy, and for a whole month he was able to do it safely. And then a grown man, he just, made a mistake. Kind of like driving, honestly. Driving is pretty safe when you're following the rules, but as soon as you go off of the rules, it becomes rapidly much less safe. So, foraging is simple enough for a 14-year-old boy to do it correctly, so I don't want you to be scared away from doing it. Just learn the rules. So, we have 3 rules, and there's a handout up front. Glad you guys could make it. That kind of goes over those, but rule number 1, have more than one source. It's possible that that forest ranger had been told once what poison hemlock looked like. I mean, goodness, how could you avoid that conversation in that career? And he just, it kind of went in one ear and out the other. Or maybe someone didn't tell him enough detail. I've had herbalism masters who taught me, and I have noticed that just like I have done, they forgot very important things when they were kind of in presentation mode rather than here is my handout that definitely has everything on it. So always have 2 sources. Always do a bit of research. Second thing is if you're going to use medicinal herbs, it's usually best to talk to your doctor and not just take it all on yourself, because sometimes the herbs might interact with medications, or they might not do everything that you're hoping they'll do. Maybe the dose is different, maybe this, maybe that. Your pharmacist can also help a lot. So, and then the last safety tip is not for you, it's for the plants. Something that people don't often realize, and I actually didn't realize until I had it brought to my attention. When we hear about endangered species, we usually think about animals, but plants do that too. We usually think about, oh no, they're almost all gone in the whole world. That's bad. But they actually can go endangered in a small area. And they can actually go extinct and not come back in a small area because there's no continuing movement of those seeds from one area to another. And so they can just disappear from an entire area and not return. So when harvesting plants, please only harvest up to 1/3 if they're common. This is in the top right box. That way I save you from writing down the things that I know you're gonna have in the notes. I don't know what I'm gonna say when I get to the rest of these because I chase squirrels everywhere. But only up to 1/3 if they're common. You can go to half if they're common. 1/3 if they're uncommon, meaning they just don't grow as abundantly, but they're not endangered. They're just not really excited. And then if they are endangered, which you can Google really fast, any government websites will be a good thing for that, as will conservation websites. Take nothing but pictures, leave nothing but footprints. They really can disappear, and it has happened. All right, so with all of that, there are other things. Be wise about where you harvest from. If there's a pool of oil right next to the plant, probably don't harvest that one. But the rest of it, we want to get to the good stuff. Question back here?
Spray them.
Oh yes, many people spray them, absolutely correct. So, did you know that some pine trees get injections to not grow over power poles? The more you know. So, try to find a place that's nice and safe, basically away from infrastructure. If it's away from infrastructure, and you know whose property it is, those are the 2 big ones that you want to watch out for. Waterways would be the 3rd one, because most waterways, sadly, are polluted. So you need to go on and say, waterway, name of this Snake River, and then find out who's managing that river and see if they have water testing listed if you want to harvest next to water. So there was a little trail off to the side of a whole other little section of the class on how to harvest properly. Now that we've had that excitement, you guys are ready to go home, right? All right, so We're going to go ahead and crack into a few plants that grow here locally in the Ozarks. These are in season now. So I'm going to hold, there are two ways that I do this. I'm going to do them together, we'll do them separate, and then together. We'll see what happens. Don't quote me. All right, who can tell me in your head first, and then after, I'm going to ask you what you think this is, but let it go by. Let it go by. Because I know that there's one person right over there who probably knows it really well. All right. It's a very clear and bright mind. All right. Go ahead. Anyone?
Yarrow.
Yarrow. All right. This is Yarrow, Achillea millefolium. Achillea comes from the ancient Greek story. I can't ever remember if it's the Iliad or the Odyssey, but the one with Achilles in it. It must be the Iliad. I think the Odyssey is the one with the ship and Odysseus we're talking about. Achilles. He's the great warrior of Troy, and he's out there, you know, the warrior's warrior. He kills 3 people, goes over here, fear not, my brother, I shall heal your wounds, and then stabs the guy behind him. It's great. When he is healing soldiers in those stories, whether it's in that direct story or the other stories told about him, he's supposed to be using a plant. This is the plant that he's supposed to have used. It's been used for thousands of years, and it's called the Master of Blood. It is extremely good at what it does, and this is one that even today I will include as like, okay, I'm making a wound healing salve. This is going to be it. Pretty much every time, because it's good at what it does. So, Achillea for Achilles, the warrior who also healed his fellow soldiers. Millefolium. Take a look at the leaf. Take a look at that leaf. All that is one leaf. If I asked you to count all the little sprigs coming off the center of that leaf, how many of you would do a shot put with me? Boom! Get out of here. There are a lot of little things. Mille means 1,000. Folium means leaf. So, millefolium, 1,000 teeny little leaf bits. Achillea millefolium. Hopefully you'll be able to remember it now. A Latin name lets you do better research if you want to get more of it. It's also just fascinating if you're a nerd. So if you found that fascinating, I'm so sorry to tell you this, but you're one of us. So, Yarrow, I've already told you it's good for wound healing. The herbal term for that is vulnerary. Vulnerary. If you ever read that word, it means, oh, it helps cell division and healing. Not always cell division, but that's usually how it works. It's just wound healing in a variety of ways. So if you get a cut or a scrape, laceration is the technical term, or if you get a hematoma, a bruise, if you get any kind of skin issue, almost all of them, being able to make the cells healthier and come back together more quickly, vulnerary. It's a good thing to go ahead and put on there. And yarrow leaf is really good at that. The stalk will help too, but it's really tough and kind of hard to put into a poultice up against it. The leaves, those are much better. I wish I had a fresh leaf for you. I'm driving all the way from Tulsa these days, so it's kind of a little bit of a drive now. I used to be just like half an hour away. Now it's more. But the leaf, if you barely crush it and smell it, it smells like a cross between mint and itself, sandalwood, bitterness, but in a good way, like the kind where you eat a food and then after all the flavors are gone, there's just this hint of bitterness that just makes it even better. That's what I think it smells like. Now, I said that it's called the Master of Blood. And that's not just because it stops blood flow. By the way, it will help clot, which means styptic. Styptic is the word for that. So if you're bleeding, yes, it'll help the cells divide. But the cells don't just like and cut, close the wound so fast that your bleeding stops instantly. That's because it helps it clot and scab over. The other part of it being the master of blood is internal. We actually, perhaps some of you have heard of deep vein thrombosis. Not fun. If you know what it is, I'm so sorry for you or a relative, which is probably where you learned it from. Basically, it means that you had a clot that got caught somewhere, and if it's called deep vein thrombosis, it's usually in the calf, maybe the thigh, and then it hurts and it causes a lot of damage in the area, and it can also sometimes go up to the lungs and the heart. Not a good thing. If you plug one of those vessels, you'll notice, okay? Yarrow, it helps clot on the outside, and it helps thin the blood on the inside and prevent clotting. Really fascinating. I've had some people give me the face of like, okay, now you're making up herbal magic stuff. It can't do both. That's not how things work. Well, actually, it's body magic stuff. We have something called platelets in our blood. And they go around and around the body. And what's their job? Does anyone have that in their pocket? Well, okay.
Platelets are what causes the clotting.
Platelets are what cause our clotting. It's one of the major things that does it. Actually, yeah, it is pretty much the major one. If you lose all your platelets, you don't clot. That's what we call bad. So, platelets cause clotting. If you make the platelets healthier, then they're able to clot when they should, and not clot when they shouldn't. So, pretty sure that's how Yarrow's doing it. So it does both. And that's why it's called Master of Blood. Can do it both ways. Really impressive. The final reason that it's called Master of Blood in my mind is that it actually makes so the blood vessels will open up more to let more blood go through an area. And so the tiny blood vessels towards the surface of our body, those can be dilated, opened up a little bit more to let more blood reach an area. Now, if you're bleeding, you don't need to worry about that. If you've got a cut, it's not going to be like, okay, open them up and bleed more. The styptic action that starts the clotting on the outside will actually go ahead and overcome that. So, Yarrow has just like a whole package of things that help wound healing altogether. Blood flow, clotting, allowing the clotting to not overdo itself. It's also anti-inflammatory, so the damage doesn't go too far, and so it doesn't over-attack, which most bodies do, and then it helps cell division. And I feel like there was one other thing that I said that I've already forgotten, but you guys haven't. You got it. So, Yarrow is so good because it has a whole package, not just one thing that's going on. Awesome wound healing medicine. So how do we identify Yarrow? Well, it's out there growing now, but right now, most of what you're going to see is either really short stalks, but mostly you're going to see just leaves coming up from the ground. I'm going to go around with the leaf again because it's beautiful enough that it likes to show itself off.
And that's dried out right now, they're vivid green.
Yes, they do tend to be greener than this. Don't trust colors on presses. That's one of the things, thank you. It's one of the things that doesn't quite preserve. So they're going to be a single midrib on each leaf, and it looks like a feather coming up the side. And then the stalks, I recommend you do not harvest Yarrow unless you know what you're doing until you finish this presentation. And until the flower stalks are up. They're what kind of save your bacon on the lookalikes until you really know what you're doing and you know the smell and some other things you can do earlier. But these stalks, there's one stalk that goes up and then it's got these little branches. I have a question that is obnoxious because it's so simple, but I'm going to ask it because the teacher in me cannot help that the teacher is in me. Yeah, all right, that was smooth. So, how many points along the stalk are those flower heads coming off? One or more than one?
Multiple.
Multiple. More than one level. Those little side shoots, they are coming off one, then another, then another. That's important. Store that. So, at the top, these flowers, I pressed them as though we're from the side, but if you go from the top, the flowers are kind of circle. They're a big circle, and we call that either an umbel, umbrella kind of shape, and technically because we have stalks coming off at different levels, there's a technical term called a corymb. Yeah, it's really hard to say and spell. C-O-R-Y-M-B. It's just another kind of umbel. So if you just want to remember it looks like an umbrella, that's great, but just remember it comes off at different levels on the stalk, which is what makes it have that different name, corymb. If it was all from one point, it would be an umbel. So we've got these umbrella-shaped flowers, we've got stalks coming off at multiple points, and we've got these feather-shaped leaves that smell very distinctive. Yarrow also has hair along its stem. That one's important. It has hair along its stem. And its height comes up to, I would say that the eager ones get up to about here. You can see higher, but this is your normal healthy yarrow once it's got its flower stalk up. Down here is also normal, so I'd say top to bottom of my head. So, anything else on yarrow? I feel like, if anyone gets a sword wound, we can try it out. You know?
I have a question.
Sure.
Okay. Considering you're not on any medication that would interact with that,
Sure.
okay, would it be possible to drink a cup of tea before you take an airplane flight?
Here's your $20 for reminding me about what I needed to talk about. All right. Before an airplane flight, sure. So the blood thinning activities are not so much that I am concerned about them unless you have a special disease or a medication they shouldn't interact with. I haven't heard of them causing any issues. I would do back research in my clinic. I am a doctor with a clinic, by the way, if I didn't mention that. To make sure if you had a special thing like PTT or whatever, PPT, anyway, which makes your platelets not happy. But you should be fine, And the part that you reminded me to talk about is there are three major medicinal parts of this plant, but we're only going to talk about two. The root is one that I just the leaves are good enough. You have to kill the plant to do the root, so when there's not a really good reason to talk about it, I just leave it alone, so it can be left alone. But the flowers, they've got some other actions. They are a nice, gentle, safe febrifuge. AKA, if you've got a fever, these will help gently give your body the option of breaking the fever. It doesn't force it. Why wouldn't we want to force the fever to stop?
Because sometimes you need the fever to kind of burn off whatever's the toxin or the whatever's
Attacking you.
Yeah.
Exactly, yes. The fever is not what we're infected with. The fever is the body's soldiers coming back with flamethrowers and saying, "Not today!" and going out across your entire body. So breaking a fever actually is giving the enemy side an advantage, unless your body says, okay, yeah, they're pretty much dead now. Now it's just smoldering fire that we didn't put out well enough. We'll go ahead and use the help you gave us to go ahead and put those out. That is very nice. So you take some of these flowers, you clean them, unless you're me, and then you look to the right, you look to the left, and no one's looking at the professional. Just stuff it right in there. So, warm water, not boiling. These are flowers. Flowers don't like boiling water. They'll have some damage to their medicinal constituents. Now, you leave it in there for maybe 5 minutes and go ahead and have a drink. It's a flower tea, so it goes faster than some other ones. And febrifuge, also, fair warning, diaphoretic. Diaphoretic. So that's an herbal term. It means makes you sweat. That's actually one of the ways that it makes your fever go down, because when you sweat, you actually are losing a lot of heat in the sweat. That's why we sweat. We also sweat to detoxify. There are several heavy metals that can be excreted in sweat. I thought sauna stuff was crazy, and then I went and actually became intelligent, and then it was like, all right, I guess it's great. So, really does help. Really does help. Exercise, oh my gosh. I am planning one day to do like a 2-hour extravaganza on exercise, and I expect all 3 people to show up if I name it. Why exercise is good for you? We'll probably name it something else, like free healthcare, and then also you guys can workshop with me on what sounds best. But sweating, diaphoretic, that helps a little bit of detoxification, but the thing that we're really thinking about here is it helps the fever go ahead and break, and it is a cooling diaphoretic. I won't go into the details on that. If you want more details than I get into here, I have an herbalism class, and I have recordings that I can make available if you'd like to talk after. All right, now, Any questions on Yarrow, Master of Blood?
So you mentioned with the flowers that you would make a tea with only warm water, not boiling water. Addressing the leaves, what are the ways, because there's multiple ways I'm thinking of to utilize the leaf?
Wonderful. All right. Question was how, you mentioned how to use the flower, but can you give us more detail on how to use the leaf? The leaf, I would usually do an oil extraction to pull out what's called azulene and a bunch of other chemicals that are in the leaf, and then they stay fresh if you extract it from the fresh plant. Once it dries, it's actually still also good. You don't need to worry about that. So that's the other way you can use it. I am planning, and I have been planning for umpteen years now, I'm gonna do it this year, for real, to get a first aid kit with dried yarrow in it, and then some muslin cloth, and anytime someone is like, sword wound, just like happens every Tuesday. And then I'm gonna go ahead and take the yarrow, and I'll pose like Achilles, and then I'll put the muslin cloth, the yarrow powder inside, I'll put it over the top, and that way no plant matter goes inside the wound. That would be bad. And it helps stop the blood flow. And obviously you still do pressure and elevation and all those other things, and you wash the wound out first. This is becoming a first aid class. I can teach one of those too. But, sorry, sometimes I wonder if I need to breathe too. So, the other ways for the leaf is I personally, now this is going to be bitter, okay, and my taste buds, according to my wife, are certifiably screwed up. That's her exact terms. So I will take the leaf and I will just chew on it, and I think it tastes amazing. Other people make amazing faces for me to watch. But I will just eat it as part of a salad, kind of like a really strong garnish, and then I'm getting the benefits internally. Anti-inflammatory, antimicrobial as well, lymph moving, because it's bitter. There's a whole bunch of actions. I told you the main ones, but lymphatic, so it moves your lymph. And then digestive. If I got that rock in my stomach feeling, like, you went out with some friends and then you're like, I'm doing really well and, doing a naturopathic doctor eating thing, so I don't need to be embarrassed when my patients say, you eat like this too all the time? And then I'm like, except for, Saturday and Thursday and Tuesday and those other, and then you eat wrong and then you have a rock in the stomach. Then I find some yarrow and I get that, and it helps the digestion move along. So really nice that way, really nice. So tincture would also be appropriate with the yarrow. I wouldn't do a tea with the leaves. It doesn't extract as well. You can try it, but you would probably get, 2/3. I think you'd get the volatile oils, but you wouldn't get the other oils. The azulene would stay inside, so the anti-inflammatory portion would be a little bit muted. So, well, there was a deep dive into some nerd realms. So, thank you for the excuse. Oh, I thought it was another question. I was like, deeper we go. All right. Second plant that we're going to talk about today. Anyone want to take a stab? Don't say it out loud until I've gone by everybody, please. Don't say it out loud until I've gone by everybody. But what do you think this is?
It's pretty.
Correct.
Good job.
She said it's pretty.
It is pretty.
All right. Anyone want to yell it out?
Queen Anne's lace?
Queen Anne's lace. Excellent. Which is another name for wild carrot. Same plant. People tend to get that confused sometimes. And then it's like, but he said this one's Queen Anne's lace, and then she said this one's wild carrot. Maybe it's cow parsnip? They're actually the same plant. The story goes that once upon a time back in England, I think it was Queen Anne. Yeah, there we go. How do you remember that name, huh? I actually forgot for a moment, which is just on brand. Very on brand. But Queen Anne was sitting in a field full of flowers, and she was embroidering her dress. Actually, I think it was supposed to be a silken cloth. Anyway, she was embroidering a beautiful pattern using these flowers as a reference. But she slipped, and she accidentally pricked her finger. And then, this isn't Sleeping Beauty, but something else happened. A drop of blood fell into the center of her pattern, and it stained it. And now this is where we find out how much you think history might lie to us sometimes. All the fields of flowers then bowed down to the Queen of England. And when they came back up, they had a red spot in the middle of every single one. except for the 16 way off in the distance that eventually betrayed England and came over here. So we actually have wild carrot flowers that only sometimes have a red flower in the center. I'm going to show my expert professional press skills. I managed to roll up the red flower and then press it so it's about the size of a hair. But there's a little dark spot right at the tip of my finger. And that used to be a deep, deep, deep red. It's so red, it's purple or red. And here's for future you, I'm recording. All right, deep, deep red. And so feel free to come up and take a look after if you couldn't quite see it from where you were, okay? And, but not every flower, particularly here in the US, actually has that red one in the center. Some people believe that that red one in the center is indicative or indicates medicinal quality of the plant. I haven't found anything that really yes or no to that. I haven't found any support or any refutation to that, but it's fascinating. So, wild carrot has some fascinating uses. Number one, carrot soup. You know, it tastes good. It's a vegetable. You can go for it that way. When you harvest it, you need to make sure you get it at the end of the first season. This is a 2-season plant. If you see the flower, you missed it. It's already season 2. And it will die after the flower's done because it's sending its seeds out into the world, and then, alas, I have no more reason to be here. My children will go on. It will leave. So, see this circle of flowers? That's year 2. What would we call that circle of flowers? What was the word we used before over here?
Umbel.
Umbel. How many spots are the flowers coming out from? One or many? All the way down at the base there. It's a little hard because I pressed it from the top. One. All of these flowers can be traced back to the central hub. One central hub per flower. So this is a true umbel, not a corum, which we just call kind of umbel junior. So that's a difference between the plants there. Now, carrot has some fascinating uses. It is a food, and if you get it at the end of year 1, as I mentioned, that's when the vegetable root is available. And you can take that, fair warning, I guess I'll tell a story to do this warning. So this whole story is the warning, okay? Back in, history buff time. The 1200s, 1300s, somewhere around there. Just nod and smile, it's probably wrong. But there was a invasion, and I believe it was Poland. I need to reinvestigate exactly the story details, because I hold on to medicinal stuff and kind of hand wave. But there was someone who was called the Duke of Orange, or the William of Orange. That was like his house name was Orange. That's like his last name. And he was a great military leader, and he saved his country from invaders. And all the people in the country were like, this guy is amazing. He saved all of our lives. He saved all of our lands. We're going to honor him. So they went out into their fields, because most of them were farmers, or at least this group was. And they took their purple carrots, very normal. And they took their creamy white carrots, very normal, and yellow, and a little bit of orange in the yellow one. We're gonna work with that. Red carrots, normal. And they hybridized those, looking for a very specific color to honor the military leader of the House of Orange. After some work, they got an orange carrot. And that's where it comes from. That much is true. All the rest of it of the year and everything, and me forgetting all that, this is where the orange carrot comes from. And that carrot was sweeter, softer, less fibers and woodiness, and bigger. And it also was orange. And so they celebrated him, but pretty soon all the surrounding countries were like, we want that carrot. We will pay you for that carrot. That thing tastes good. It's sweet. And so they started selling it, and the orange carrot took over the world, and it still is that. So that's where it's come from. Now, what is the warning? I said it's softer. The carrots you're going to harvest out in the wild, they are not the special orange carrot. They are tough and woody. The very center pith, the little center column in carrots, if you've ever bitten into a carrot, you've noticed there's a color difference in the center disc. And if you're like me, when you were younger, you ate everywhere around it and then had a little stick that you could wave around.
It's a little key.
Yes, you could do that. It's got all the little side shoots. It's a little key. But in wild carrots, that part is so hard, you just give it to your brother-in-law. Okay? You don't need to keep that part. You can grate it down into powder and then flavor soups with it, but you're not going to be biting through it. Not unless it's a very, very, very tender carrot and you got it while it's small and new. So, when you are harvesting, go ahead and do a slit down the side vertically, and then kind of husk the carrot. And then keep the outside and the inside you can use as seasoning. Now, it's a wonderful food. It's got carotenoids, beta-carotene as well. Those are two vitamin-ish things, and those are great for eyes. Also good for skin. Further, it is believed, this is one I haven't gone and validated. I like to do research and keep things if it's single, double, or triple validated, and that's whether it's traditional, clinical, and research. Those are my three things I try to have. This one is traditional. I don't have clinical or studies for it, but it's interesting that for thousands of years, carrot has been believed to be an aphrodisiac. Aphrodisiac. Supposed to be something that makes so that you are able to feel love a little bit more strongly. It's also, this one does have studies behind it, good for your liver. And if your liver is happy, who's heard this before? If your liver is happy, who's happy? Everyone. The liver is the mother of the body. It gives to everyone, and if the liver's happy, everyone's happy. If the liver's not happy, no one's happy.
Before we get too far off of color, on this wild carrot species, what color should we expect? Or would there be a range?
It would be a range. It would be a range. So the color of the root that you would expect is any of the ones that I mentioned. I don't think I've seen dark purple out here. You'd probably expect yellowy, I think is what I've seen mostly. Yellowish. So, how to identify, if you're lucky, it'll have that red flower or a deep purple. It almost looks black a lot of the time. Flower in the middle. And then the flowers are a true umbel. The stalks, they can have a little bit more branching going on. Take a look at their leaves. Take a look at those. Not exactly like a feather. Not exactly like a feather. They're much more, I don't know, spread out. Sparse, sure. And if you notice, at least this is how I think of it. Some people look at me like I'm crazy, but I feel like the tips of the fingers are a little rounded, a little club-shaped, kind of. And that helps me. Not versus yarrow, but versus our third plant that we're going to talk about. So, a little club-shaped at the end. Now, the flower and the leaves are really helpful. The stalk is hairy. All right, I'm going to look around for the executioner. Okay, not here. Queen Anne had hairy legs. All right? Don't tell. Don't ask how I know. All right? So, hairy stalk. Did yarrow have a hairy stalk? It did. So we've got two hairy stalks. So that means our third one's probably going to be not that, or else I wouldn't be making such a big deal about it. Last thing for carrot, if it's easiest to identify when the flowers are up, and that's really, really what I want to impress upon you, is only do your first identifications while the flowers are present. It's very easy to confuse when it's young and only the leaves are there. But if you take the leaves of a plant that's more than a few weeks along, and you crush them and smell them, what smell do you think you're going to get off of a carrot plant?
Carrot.
Carrot. You're going to get a carrot smell. Now, you could smell the root, but we're going to shift to our third plant. Anyone remember what this was? I spoiled it in the beginning. Poison hemlock. Poison hemlock and wild carrot are very similar. So poison hemlock, I've already told you the story about it. Take a look at the leaves. I'm going to bring both around. When they're right next to each other, the leaves look similar. When they're not next to each other, they look exactly the same. I swear it was carrot. I swear. I know for sure. And then you get them next to each other and you're like, oh, glad I didn't kill my cousin that day. So these are some of the most commonly confused plants in the nation, I would say, that matters. Maybe there are others that get confused a lot, but these are the ones where it's like, one is deadly poison. Poison hemlock. Some of its identifying characteristics, medicinal characteristics, it cures anything once, and then you're gone. So it's poisonous, it will take you down. No medicinal value, which is very rare. Most poisonous plants, like foxglove, we actually turned foxglove into digoxin, which is a heart medication, which I know people still taking it. Ones who I didn't prescribe it for, but anyway, in my relation tree. But this one is so poisonous, it's not even used in tiny, tiny, tiny doses. Poison hemlock has lacy leaves, and I'm going to come around with a picture here. It cut off just a bit there, so forgive me. But look at those flowers. It's not a great resolution. Look at those flowers. They look kind of like fireworks. They're a big ball of flowers. They're an umbel. They're an umbel. And that's what makes this so hard. The leaves and the flowers, right here. The leaves and the flowers are similar to wild carrot. So let's talk about the differences. Wild carrot has a hairy stem. Poison hemlock has a smooth stem. Smooth, bad. Wild carrot has a solid stem. It's full. Poison hemlock, I'm coming around with it. I'm going to tell you a sad story. Brace yourselves if any of you are, emotive like me. There was a group of 6 kids, roughly, I don't remember the number, but there was a group of kids playing by a riverside, and a riverside, as well as anywhere that's got some moisture, ditches, things like that, also meadows. It's not really picky, but it likes a little bit more water. And there's poison hemlock growing there. And if you break poison hemlock open, it's hollow. And these kids found that out. They started to make whistles. And they made whistles for all of them, and they were playing on their whistles. And unfortunately, they didn't eat any of it. But unfortunately, just that was enough that they passed. And there wasn't much that could be done for them. Poison hemlock, once it's in your system, there's not much we can do except give you support and hope that that's enough that you pull through the other end. There isn't a reversible mechanism. So
it doesn't take very much at all.
No, it does not take very much at all. One leaf would be enough to do a whole family. So, hollow, bad. If you break the plant, actually, when I was clearing out some poison hemlock on our land, or my brother-in-law's land, the same one that I gave the carrot stick, when you break it, you hear this boom, because it's hollow. Have you ever had a glass and blown over the top? It is legitimately hollow. If I was less intelligent, I could stick my whole thumb into some of the bigger stalks. It drinks that much water, that's how hollow it is. So it also sucks up all your water, so you want to get rid of it for that reason. You'll notice it also has purple spots. Now this is not always, it is usually. And so I mentioned this one last as the least reliable, but it's got purple spots. See, it looks like someone went by with a paint can really recklessly.
On the stem?
Yes, on the stem. And it just looks like little splatters of paint came out of that can and just came up and hit it. So that one will do it. And then there is also one more reliable test. If you smell it and have a sense of smell that's better than mine, even I can tell this one, but I have a terrible sense of smell. Smells rancid. Smells like mouse urine, according to some books. And I'm like, did you get a dish of that? And don't tell me. I don't need to know. But how do you know that? But don't answer. So, wild carrot will smell like carrot. Poison hemlock will smell rancid. However, I'm going to tell you the last little trick here. Poison hemlock has a sister. Water hemlock. And it's one of the 7 most deadly plants in the world. Water hemlock is. Poison hemlock, somewhere in the top 20, I want to say. Water hemlock, even worse. How many of you have heard of the philosopher Socrates? Yeah? All right. Great stuff. I really like reading that when I'm feeling especially nerdy. Maybe that's moving into geeky. I'm not quite sure. But when he passed for being a public nuisance and the government couldn't stand his philosophy that was biting, I guess. What a way to go. Your philosophy is going to get you. Yeah, all right. So, he actually paid for the privilege to have a cup of water hemlock tea as his execution method, instead of being beheaded with an axe that wasn't always known for being sharp. And so he would go ahead and drink this. Poison hemlock, very nasty, not fun. Water hemlock, supposedly, it's hard to get experiments on this, but supposedly you feel numbness in your fingers and toes, and then it moves inward until it gets to the center, and then it's lights out. But it doesn't hurt a lot, supposedly. And I wouldn't bank on that at all, but that's what they say. And Socrates had that, and that was enough. So water hemlock has different leaves. It's got solid leaves that don't look like any of these. So that's how you tell the water hemlock apart. I don't have a picture of water hemlock. I'm holding poison hemlock. But water hemlock has leaves that they look sort of like elm or not maple, elm leaves, something like that. Don't quote me on that, that's bad. I'm trying to give you a leaf that looks similar that you might know, and it's like those veins are way too prominent. Looks like solid leaves, not all divided and lacy. Okay? So, water hemlock, the reason I tell you about it is, yes, it kind of has the same flower. But water hemlock, some people have said, smells like carrot. So the carrot sniff test is not the only test you do to identify, okay? So, pop quiz, everybody's favorite. Tell me one identifying feature. Just yell it out. One identifying feature of Yarrow. You can pick anything.
The stem, it's got multiple.
Yes, the stem. Multiple off-branching stems.
Feathery leaves?
Feathery leaves. Great.
Hairy stems.
And hairy stems. Good ones for Yarrow. Now, tell me a couple identifying features about wild carrot.
Red
Spot of blood in the middle.
Spot of blood in the middle on the flower. Good.
Sometimes.
Umbel that doesn't have multiple, and it's sometimes on the spot of red. And then, is the stalk hairy or smooth?
Hairy.
Hairy. Good. All right, I'm very happy. Okay, now we have the bad guy. Oh, now I'm the bad guy. Sorry, I saw Tangled not too long ago. So, tell me, this is the one, tell me about the stalk. What are the three identifying things on the stalk?
Smooth stalk.
Smooth stalk, hollow stalk. And then the coloring?
Purple.
Spots.
Purple spots.
Got 3 things to check for on the stalks. And now, what's the smell?
Good. Rancid.
Nasty, yes. Awesome. Now, when you are examining any of these plants, I did these from most friendly to least friendly. Why is carrot in the middle? Oh. Yarrow, very friendly. You can touch, you can break, you can sniff, you can snack. Carrot. I mean, the root's nice, but the stem has some sap if you damage it, and that sap has furanocoumarins, if you want to be really coming up the nerd scale. It's got some things in it, but if you get it on your skin, nothing happens. Oh, unless you go out in the sunshine, which is where wild carrot grows. And then you'll get blisters. How many of you have ever had a lime along the rim of a drink? Anyone done that ever? Yeah? Kind of fancy? Feeling good? Yep. Well, the bartender who did that for you may have sacrificed his hands. Because if he does that, inside the lime are also furanocoumarins that are completely fine until you go out in the sun with them on your skin. And if a bartender goes out and has his break out in the sun, and he's limed the glass recently, he gets what's called bartender's blisters all across his hand. Because the furanocoumarins will react, change conformation and shape, and then they'll irritate the heck out of your skin. Carrot sap does the same thing. So, is it poisonous? No, but it's irritating. The flowers also have some medicinal things you can look up. I'm going to leave those to the side. They mess with hormones, basically. So, now our third, more dangerous one. This is one I wouldn't touch without a glove. Okay? If you grab it and let go, are you going to die? No. You might get a rash, though. You might get a rash. So this is one that you just don't handle. I have touched it and been like, oh, stop being stupid. And I'm okay. I'm still here. If I'm not here next month, you know, maybe, but so far, we're all right. And then water hemlock is the same. Don't touch them. So those are the plants that I've got for you. Question?
When you said you were clearing land, you burn it, hemlock,
Oh, I'm so glad you asked that. Okay.
smoke it, get you.
Yep. Answered your own. That was perfect. Come on up. You can take over. I'll go over here. If you have poison hemlock, would you burn it? Was the question. And then he said probably not because of the smoke. And I will say absolutely correct. The smoke will carry the poison. I haven't actually heard of anyone dying from poison hemlock smoke, but I have heard of people getting quite sick. So you do it either by hiring a professional. You do it either by pulling it up, which is going to be hard. Make sure you brace and lift with your legs, not with your back. This thing gets huge. And you just keep pulling it up over and over and over until it runs out of root, because the little bits left will grow back. And you're going to do this for at least 5 to 8 years. Okay? Or, and that's because the seeds are viable for 3 to 5 years. And if they've dropped seeds, they don't try to come up every year. Some of them will wait up to 5 years to try. So you're going to be doing it for a while. Or option 2, I don't like pesticides. There are some that are less offensive than others. I pick the least offensive one that works, which I don't remember what it's called right now, so forgive me. I just try not to think about them, and now I've done that too much. But I will get a narrow shovel, I'll dig it down to the root as far as I can, I'll break it, pull it up, and then I will get a narrow beam sprayer, and I will rest the shovel in the hole, and I will spray the center of the shovel, and it shoots that stream straight down into the root hole. If you try and do it like this, you're going to hit the side of the root hole, and it won't get down to the root as well.
Would it be easier just to take a little bit of the dirt up?
It can be sometimes. Do whatever's best for your land. So, don't let them seed, because they put out thousands of seeds. So those are some fun plants. I'm going to give you a couple bonus plants, okay? These are plants not everybody got. So be sure and brag loud, okay? This one you guys are probably familiar with.
Oh, yes.
Yeah?
Looking for 4-leaf.
Ooh.
Oh, yeah.
5-leaf. Someone brought this for me. Her name was Shirley. She was so nice. Now I am extra lucky. I think she had a 6-leaf one, but I think she kept that one. So, clover. All right, so clover. I'm going to be fast because technically we're like 2 minutes from time, but I want to tell you. So, clover usually has 3 leaves, and it's got that pom-pom flower up top. Why am I showing you the presents? All right. And this is the one that I was like, oh, well, it happens to be there. See how it's got all these little, people call those petals? Every single one of those is actually an individual flower. So there's 70 flowers right there. So that little pom-pom, it's got 3 leaves. 3 leaves, and they usually have, I'll let you come up and take a look, they usually have little white V's on the leaf. Little chevrons is what that shape is called. Not always. It's still the right plant if it doesn't. There's not really any lookalikes. If it looks like clover, it's pretty much clover if the flower is there. Here is a lookalike that I grabbed by accident, not because I couldn't tell them apart, but literally because I just went, oh. Let's see if it'll be excited to see you. Come on, they're excited to see you. Where's a good one? Yeah, good enough. All right, take a look at those leaves. They fold in the center. This is not clover. This is not clover. Clover has elliptical leaves, oval leaves. What shape are these leaves?
Heart-shaped?
Heart-shaped. Very good from the back too. Impressive. I hope my eyes do. Your eyes do. All right. I've been thinking I'd like to get tested. Probably not, but no. It's actually just because of inflammation. When I don't manage my joints properly, it goes to the eyes as well, and everything blurs. By the way, plants are what I use to fix that. So, this is Rumex oxalis. So, this is sorrel. I believe this one's called mountain sorrel. I always get mountain and sheep sorrel confused because that's the common name, but it's sorrel. This is, I don't know if they use pesticide or not, but it's edible and it's delicious, and I would have just eaten that in front of you and not shared. It is one of the more delicious wild edibles. It tastes like lemons, and I'm not just like kind of sorta, it tastes outright like lemons.
It's clover.
This is the sorrel.
The sorrel.
We moved on from the clover. The
Okay.
clover is also edible. It tastes a lot more like kale and peas mixed. Peas especially. It's a member of the pea family. You can tell by the flower shape, which you're welcome to come up and take a look at after. Look for banner, wings, and keel, especially some who were on our plant walks not too long ago. We talked about that. Didn't find a good pea flower. So, don't want to push too far over to respect our library hosts. Clover is edible, has good minerals, and sometimes helps hormones if it's red clover. Sorrel is delicious. Question.
Does sorrel come with flowers?
Sorrel does have flowers. I don't remember what they look like off the top of my
I
head.
think they're yellow.
Hmm?
They're yellow.
Yellow? Oh yeah, the little, okay.
Isn't that called sheep sour or sheep shower?
Yes, I've heard it called that as well, yes. In the West, they call it sheep sorrel, and then over here, I've heard sheep showers more often.
Something like that.
So, all right. So I will close on the plants. Thank you guys for coming. It's so much funner when, there's people here who are excited to share the nerdliness with. I have three things to just let you know. One, if you're looking for a natural alternative to boost your health, whatever your health goals may be, I am a doctor with a sense of humor. If you would like to have any natural health care, got some business cards, and then there's also a thing you can scan to set up a free 15-minute consult, and you just schedule that right in. So I do virtual visits. You wouldn't have to drive to Tulsa. I also have an office in Jay, just a little bit north of here. So, number two, a lot of this information put together is a lot of information. And so sometimes it feels like you're trying to get down a lot of things. I do record, but I also have little handouts that are on the tables. And if you want to take pictures, feel free. I also sell the PDFs for $5 per PDF. Just come up and talk to me after. Last thing, if you want more herbal knowledge, this is a monthly class, and I also have online or in-person paid herbalism classes where I go over how to think like an herbalist, how to practice as an herbalist with friends, not professionally. That's a whole other thing. But you won't be trying to make recipes off of blogs. You'll know why you're doing what you're doing, what makes it better. So with those three things, thank you for your time tonight.
Thank you.